What's up, everyone? And welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success. I have Zack Tominack with us. He's with the Tominack Group at Coldwell Banker Realty. And Zack, thanks so much for coming on today.
What's up, John? Feels good to be here. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a little scare yesterday.
Yeah, I think when you're as busy as we are and things are running around, I was looking at my calendar and I was like, oh, I have John's podcast today at 4. And when I reached out to your assistant Leo, in his time zone, it was the 15th. He thought it was the as well. So
yeah,
it all worked out.
Hey, realtor life, right? It was like,
right.
Hey, are we on today? I'm like, oh crap. No, I don't think so.
I was just going to mess with you. I knew what day it was.
Yeah, there we go. But no, I mean, we've chatted a little bit in the past, and I've always been friends on social media, and the whole goal of the Tell Me More podcast is just to get agents on here and to really share their journey into getting into the business, and to really show other people that are either thinking about getting into the business, or really maybe their business isn't as consistent, to really just show them that, hey, there's so many different ways to find success. So I love bringing on agents, and I love hearing their journeys, because I'm a big believer there's not one way to do real estate. So I'm super excited to have you on, Zack. And I always want to start with the beginning, the growing up. What was Zack like? What was life like? Start me from the early years, lead me up to high school, college, after high school.
So I grew up on east side of Cleveland, a little suburb called Eastlake. Whenever I tell anyone that in Central Ohio, they're like, "Oh, I've heard of Eastlake. That's really nice." I'm like, "No, that's Westlake." So there's always the Eastlake, Westlake, two very different areas. Eastlake's little town. We're about 15 miles east. It was a great place to grow up. So I grew up there with my parents, my sister. My dad was a school teacher and a football coach and a track coach. So I kind of had that upbringing, blue collar, hard work. You kind of, all the attributes that you're gonna expect from a stereotypical football coach. But grew up there, played football, ran track in high school, ended up coming to Ohio State in '99, and from Ohio State was an adventure. So I didn't know what I wanted to be from day one. There was lots of ups and downs, and then I'm sure we'll touch on some more of that later on. But coming to Columbus was the best thing I ever did. I met my wife once I came to Columbus, met her at Ohio State, and from there it just led me down the journey that kept me in Gehenna this day, years later.
Yeah, I'm laughing and smiling because I moved around a lot when I was growing up. No, I shouldn't say a lot. I went to 3 different schools. So I don't know if that's a lot. Probably a lot to some, probably not a lot to others. But it's funny because I get to learn as we go, right? When I'm bringing, other realtors on. And so when someone's like, "Oh, I'm from Northeast Ohio," and I'm like, "Oh, what part?" They're like, "Oh, Youngstown." I'm like, "Oh, I grew up in that area." And then Eastlake, my high school years, I went to Madison.
Okay.
So
I didn't do that.
my high school years,
rival.
freshman year through senior year, I went to Madison. And so North and Perry and Menor and Chardon and all that good stuff. Willoughby South. So I was laughing because it's life works sometimes where it's just kind of a small world, right? And it's just like, now obviously our time frame's a little bit different as far as when you were there growing up versus me growing up, but I always laugh when people are like, it's that close distance, and they're always like Northeast Ohio or east of Cleveland or whatever. It's like, oh, what part?
Central Ohio, like there's so many transplants in Central Ohio. Like with Ohio State here and with the economy and everything, like so many people came here looking for that next opportunity, and we just stuck around.
Yeah. I mean, why go back, right? So you grew up playing sports, kind of active. Decided, after high school to come down to Ohio State. What did you end up coming to Ohio State for?
You know what? I originally wanted to be a teacher and a coach. My dad was a teacher and a coach. His dad was a teacher and a coach. I was like, what else am I going to do? I want to be a teacher and a coach. So came to Ohio State. with that in mind. But, honestly, I wasn't the best student coming down here. You get that freedom. When you get started, you're like, I'm going to be fine. I'll figure this out. And then, one thing leads to another. And, I struggled my first in college. Like, I just struggled. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I bounced from major to major after that. And then with Ohio State at the time, like really the only way to be a teacher was to go to grad school. Mm-hmm. And nobody was going to want me in their grad school at that time. So I ended up, there's lots of things that happened. So like I said, I struggled in college, right?
Yeah.
So it was hard. And that's one of the reasons, I'll kind of touch on it later on, I think. But, one of the reasons that led me where I'm at now and gave me a successful real estate career is so many failures, so many failures growing up and in college. In those failures that you go through, they build a foundation. You're like, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm not going to drop the ball like that again. And that's like in college, I was in school for almost 5 years, really didn't know what I was doing. And I got academically dismissed. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? And, so that I went back home, went to Cleveland State for a semester. And, one thing led to another down here. I was still coming down here every so often. And, I ended up getting a girl pregnant down here and she's now my wife. It all worked out. But like coming back down here and I had so much growing up to do. And eventually I did go back to Ohio State and graduate with a degree in psychology and, did really well in my major. So there was that growing up process, but bouncing around. I didn't know what I was going to do in college, and it was just so many hiccups, but it all worked out.
Yeah. I mean, to me, college is one of those things. I got my own views, my own opinions on, how do you really, have an 18, 19-year-old try to figure out what the hell, they want to do for the rest of their life, and, for me, my experience was, moving from a small town south of Youngstown to Madison was a huge jump for me, culture shock, all of those things. I went from 50 some kids in a class to 270, I think was my graduating class. And then I came down to Ohio State, and coming to that big city, was even more of a culture shock. And, the same thing, my first semester was great with grades. And then they kind of went down and, they leveled out. But I think it's just so hard for someone to really just figure out at that age, and
you're so young, your life experiences are going to lead you to what you want to do career-wise. So unless you're dead set and that you want to be have that specialty, you want to be a teacher or an architect or a doctor or something where the direct field in college. Otherwise, you're just kind of getting a degree and seeing what path you're going to take.
Yeah. So you had a couple, missteps, went back up to Cleveland, did some Cleveland State, ended up getting your now wife pregnant, right? And she was still down here?
Yeah, she was down here. She was a senior, and I bartended at the Newport Music Hall all through college. All right, and my wife bartended next door at the time was Panini's, so that's how I got to know her, and we talk every so often, and it's just funny how things worked out.
Yeah. So you end up coming back to Columbus.
Yeah.
And at that point, you decided to go. Or continue going to Ohio State for psychology?
Well, yeah. So I came back to Columbus, but I didn't go to school right away. So, even though our lives were going to be forever bound at that point, we weren't together.
Sure.
So we were living our own lives. We both had a lot of growing up to do. We're just young kids. So, I was here working. I worked at NetJets on weird shifts so I can be with the baby during the day, and then I bartended at night, and she was working full time and finishing up school. And once we all we started growing up a little bit, we got to know each other, and we're like, hey, you're not so bad. and then we started our lives together at that point. But when my daughter was about 2, I knew I wanted to go back to school, and I wanted to set the example for her. Whether or not that degree was going to put me in a different place in the future, I'm not sure. I could be still sitting here without it. But like I went to Columbus State, got straight A's, learned how to be a student, transferred to Ohio State, and got over a 3.0 in my major, like did well and like enjoyed it. So I was glad to have that second chance because it took the sour taste out of my mouth. But I learned a lot, and it was important.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So once did you ended up graduating?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do right after, kind of graduating college? Kind of lead me up to, the career path up to real estate.
So when I graduated, I was managing the Newport Music Hall, one of the managers at. So I was mainly doing the bar, settling with some bands at the end of the night, helping doing stuff with the building. So it was myself and a guy named Adam Vanchoff, who I'm so close with today. He's still their promoter. But so I was managing the Newport, and I was just thinking, I was like, I can't be working these nights forever because I stayed working there so I could take care of the kids during the day.
Right.
Work at night, get home at 2 a.m, wake up at 7, take care of the kids. And it was hard. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And, I started to pay attention to real estate a little bit. Our first house was a foreclosure. My wife bought it, and then I moved in with her, and it was in Gahanna, nice little house, just needed a ton of work. So we were constantly doing stuff, redoing the kitchen, finishing the basement, redoing the bathrooms, like doing all this stuff. And I started seeing homes in our neighborhood just popping up. And I would look online to see what they were going for. I'm like, wow, I mean, that's such a big difference. So I just started paying attention and watching it. And it just kind of caught my interest. And a good friend of mine was a lender. He's still a lender today. Him and I work together quite often. But we talked, and he's like, why don't you come join my office? He said, you're probably not going to make much money for about 6 months, but come join us. And I think you would do a good job with it. So I was thinking, I was like, yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea. I don't know, it's about 6 months without making any money, but it didn't seem like a bad idea at the time. And I just started thinking about it more and more. And I was like, with working at the Newport, working behind the bar, like I was on the front lines. I got to deal with people face to face. Every day was different. You're going to so many different personalities. You got to learn to think on your feet and make quick decisions. I was like, I like dealing with people face to face, and I like the challenges that come with dealing with people. So I was like, maybe I'll try getting my real estate license. And I did that in 2000. I got my license in 2013. And right around the time where I got licensed, the company wanted to promote me to go work at the larger concert venue downtown. I believe it's Kemba Live now.
Okay.
So I went down there, and I was working and trying to do real estate a little bit part-time. And, it's hard to be a part-time agent. If you're not putting that effort into it, it's hard to get the rewards, and you see people and how well they're doing. And you're like, man, I want to do that. I think I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that. I was working there, and I reached a point where I couldn't do it anymore. Working the nights and the concert venue it was too much. I didn't like being away from my family at night. It was just a lot.
What was was that choice of getting into real estate, right? I mean, you have a steady job, you have a family that's growing, right? And now it's, hey, I want to make this change into real estate. In 2013, which we were coming out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. What was that conversation like, from the family standpoint, from, the support standpoint, because that's a big factor into, a lot of agents, finding success and having that, conviction to kind of make that leap.
I'm very fortunate. So I had a ton of support. My wife obviously was very supportive. She was all for it. She was tired of the nights too. And we knew that wasn't my future. That was what I had to do at the time. And when I started talking about getting my license, I couldn't afford to pay for the classes. And fortunately, I talked to my parents, and my mom right away was like, hey, I'll help you. If you need me to come down during the days and watch the kids, I'll come down. You go take your classes. She said, I'll do whatever you need. So I was very fortunate to have that support, because without it, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, that's awesome. So you got licensed 2013. You're kind of doing both careers, it's starting to get tough to kind of manage it. Was it because of just the hours, or was it, your business was really starting to pick up? Kind of walk me through some of those first couple years, success, struggles, what was kind of that ride like?
Well, the success part of it would be a very quick conversation. So success was very limited. My first house that I sold was to one of my employees and his girlfriend. They were buying their first house together. They were expecting a baby, and they bought a house. It was a $57,000 house. It was my first transaction. I had no clue what I was doing. I was faxing stuff, running over to her house and signing it in person. I had no idea. And I didn't ask for help because, one, I didn't know who to ask. I was just kind of clueless. Yeah. So, and then and that was May of 2014. So when I started, it was at the end of 2013. I didn't have any business. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I found out that our third child was on the way. So we have 3 daughters. So our third daughter was coming, and we're like, we need a bigger house. Market was kind of picking up a little bit, and my other 2 transactions for that year were selling my house and buying a new one. So, and at that point, when you start making a little bit of money on it, it's so much more than you're making at your regular job. You're just you're like, I have to figure out a way to do this. So for 2014, just plugged away. I did it part-time. I maybe sold, a couple more houses. And then at the beginning of 2015, I was just like, I got to put more effort into this. This is what I want to do. So I started getting a little busier, had a couple listings. I saved up like all the commission I made. So come April, I was at a point where I could quit my job and start selling real estate full time. And if I didn't make $1 for like 3 or 4 months, we were going to be okay. My wife worked full time. She has a good job. So we were going to be fine. So in May of 2015, I was like, I'm going all in, and I put in my 2 weeks and switched to a different brokerage where I thought was a little bit of a better fit at the time, and I went full time and really haven't looked back since.
Was that because I help with agents just from our team and other agents that I help. I like helping newer agents. It's kind of, my mission and my passion of this industry is really kind of, helping new agents get into it. So that transition process, I'm pretty familiar with, agents coming from a different career and trying to figure it out and navigate those waters. What for you? And I always say everyone's different. Some agents jump in and they're like 2 feet in. 3 weeks later, they're quitting their other job and they're going to figure it out. For you, what was that comfort zone about 3 months of payments and things like that to allow you to make that leap?
I would say, like, if I were a young single guy and didn't have anybody else dependent on me, like, I probably would have jumped in a lot quicker. Sure. And I just wanted to make sure that anybody that was counting on me, I wasn't going to let down. So that was why I wanted to have some sort of reserves, and it gave me a better opportunity where there was less pressure too when you had that comfort zone that you're going to be like, hey, I got some stuff to fall back on. Doesn't work out, we'll figure it out.
Sure. And where did you kind of get to those first handful of deals? Obviously the beginning was one employee, and then yourself, and then you're starting to kind of get some of that momentum in your business. What were you focusing on to really allow you to kind of get those listings and then really say, hey, I'm in a good spot, let's just go all in?
I had another sale from another employee, somebody on my bar staff. Him and his wife needed a place, so that was one. And then I started working a couple open houses. I picked up, which at the time, like I was very lucky. I worked this open house. A friend of mine let me work. It was out in Blacklick or Pataskala or something. And this couple came in there and they were looking for homes, and that wasn't the right one for them. But I ended up helping them find a $550,000 home in New Albany and listing their house. And like at the time, like that money that I made off that sale in New Albany, I was like, holy smokes. And that's 2015. So that's a long time ago. So that was pretty high up there in the market then.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So 2015, you're going all in. You said May, right?
Yep.
Going all in. Kind of lead me up to those next couple of years. What was your business like? What did you focus on? To be able to build that business. Kind of talk to me about that.
As I got into it, I went full time. The things I was doing to get business a little different than what I was doing. I was calling a lot of for sale by owners, calling on expireds, working the open houses. Luckily I had a pretty good referral network going just from the amount of time I've been in Columbus and the people that I've known from my previous career. So I was able to build upon that, and it just each year started getting a little better. 2015, I probably had like 10 sales or something like that. And then, the next year crept up a little bit to like 14. And then it just progressed from there. Like a lot of agents, each year just gets a little bit better than the year before.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's awesome. I think, making that decision to kind of go all in, at that time in 2015, just, I always talk about agents, just think about, instead of you clocking in and clocking out for 8 hours over here, imagine if you were able to just take that just one day, clock in 8 hours just in your real estate business, and you'll start seeing that, that momentum. You don't necessarily need to see sales, right? It's a lot of I need to see the momentum coming. I need to see more conversations and more people added to my pipeline, and then they turn into clients and so forth. So lead me up to kind of current day. How's business been over the last couple of years? What have you been focusing on?
So business, I mean, every year keeps on getting better. Around 2000, well, to backtrack a little bit, like in 2014, before I went full time, I almost quit real estate because I was like, I'm not going to be able to hack this. And there was one manager I had that talked to me. His name was Arnold DeSena. And and he's like, Zach, he's like, you got all the tools. He's like, just put in the time. And I needed to hear that to get the confidence from someone.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for like hearing those words, I probably wouldn't have continued. But having somebody like that give me the confidence to move forward and to put the effort in, that made the difference. And I think about that still to this day, and it made a huge difference. And that's where I look at like my career today. Like I know it wouldn't have happened without someone like that. And then another person was Newton Burris. I met Newton like totally by chance. I was at a Subway wearing a brokerage shirt from the company I was with before, Coldwell Banker. And this guy came up to me and I recognized him from somewhere and I didn't know who it was. And it was Obi Stillwell. And he just switched to Coldwell Banker and he started talking to me and he's like, you should really talk to my manager. I was like, nah, I'm not interested. I just switched brokerages not too long ago. I'm not really looking for that. And he's like, you don't know what you don't know. And so the next day my phone rings and it's this guy named Newton Burris. And he's trying to get me to have lunch with him. And I first told him no. And then I was like, all right, I'll go have lunch with you. Had lunch to him, had lunch with him, listened to him, enjoyed our conversation. And I walked out. I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm not going to switch. And I told him that I wasn't interested. And this guy just kept on bothering me. Like every couple of weeks, he's shooting me a message, giving me a call. And eventually he's like, why don't you stop into the office? I want you to talk to myself and our broker on record, Jerry White. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested in that. And he's like, come on, you'll like what we have here. I was like, all right. So I set up a meeting with him and I no-showed. And I forgot all about it. Had some stuff going on. I no-showed. So he calls me back and he's like, hey, I missed you today. He's like, why don't you come in tomorrow? So I came in the next day and listened to him. I sat there for like an hour and listened to him and Jerry White. And I realized then that like, I didn't know what, like Obi said, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that what I was doing was pretty good, and I didn't realize the potential that was ahead of me and what the things that were possible.
Yeah.
So sitting with Newton and all the tools that he had to offer and all the support, and he told me like the last thing he said to me when I was leaving that meeting, he said, Zach, if you come over here, I'm going to give you every tool in the world to succeed. If you don't, it's on you. And I was like, man, you know what? I need to take advantage of this. And so when I came over here, I put those tools to use and built more relationships. You know, in the business, the longer you're in the business, the more referrals you get.
Yeah.
You do a good job for somebody, you're gonna be on the top of their mind when something happens. So it's real easy for them to pass your info on, and that's now my business. I'd say it's probably 60% referral based from previous clients or people in my sphere. So it just
No, that's awesome.
You just got to keep plugging away, and it gets better.
No, that's awesome. It's one of those things. I was just talking to a good friend of mine, Leah Ackerman. Leah probably from Cutler Real Estate, and having those right mentors, in your circle, allow you to compress the time it takes to really find that success. I just did a training the other day, and it's the 6 principles of the 6 secrets of success, right? And it's 6 principles, and one of them is modeling success, right? Like, what works for you will work for me. What works for me will work for you. Like, why try to invent the wheel? Why try to redo it when I can just take something from over here and take it and apply it to my business? I may have to tweak some things here and there, right? And that's why I'm a big believer in always going to trainings, small events, big events, conferences, whatever the case may be, because you just never know who you're going to run into, and what's working in Orlando or Texas or Oregon. I can bring it back here, and I don't have to reinvent it or invent it. I just got to copy it and bring it in and put it in place. And having those mentors are huge.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just need a little bit of confidence too.
Yeah.
There's the old saying, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. I'm quick to tell that to my kids, and it's true. So sometimes just a little bit of confidence will help give you the motivation to get out there and do that stuff.
And if you don't have the confidence, find someone that will help give you that confidence, right? I tell agents all the time, especially brand new agents, I feel like a lot of the reasons why newer agents fail is because they don't have the opportunities to do real estate activities on a consistent basis, because they just don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know how to go out and attract clients and things like that. And so if you're listening in and your business is inconsistent, or you're just getting off the ground, like, find someone to go and model their business, whether it's a top agent in your brokerage, whether it's a broker, a coach, a mentor, whoever it is, and go just see what they're doing and sacrifice your time to help them out, because modeling success will help you compress the time it takes to find your success.
Yeah, and people want to help too. The help's always there. Like if you want help, or you want someone to teach you and like show you things, you're not like, you don't have to look far. People in this business, I think, want to help each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's those ones that don't, and you'll quickly know who those are, and that's fine. But I think the majority of people understand exactly what you're going through, right? Those struggles, right? Hey, I know what it was like, not knowing how to do a contract, so I'll give you, 30 minutes of my time to walk you through it. Or I know what it was like to, not really know how to do a listing appointment, so let me show you, right? And, that collaboration, that community is so important in our business, I think. And that's one of my missions, right? Is just keep continuing to put that type of message out. Yeah. So, Zach, I want to kind of move, into the future.
Okay.
Of kind of where you want to get to. What's one thing that you're really looking to accomplish over the next 12 months? It could be real estate related, business, team, whatever.
I think right now, like when I look at the future in the next 12 months, I really would like to grow a team. I'm at a point now where, being a solo agent and doing everything by myself, I think that there's opportunities to help somebody, someone that's younger that maybe is struggling similar like I was, and to kind of show them what I went through and teach them the things that I picked up along the way, and help each other. Because I know I could use the help, and I think that I would be able to help somebody that's in a similar boat.
Wow, that's awesome. What's something that you're looking to hit and accomplish in the next 5 years? What's a 5-year goal for you?
5-year goal? Probably have more than one person, like we talked about. I'm probably going to stay in the sales aspect for a while. Maybe down the road, like I'd say if you asked me like what my 15 or 20-year goal was, then I'd probably say managing an office and doing something. I really like working with Coldwell Banker. I could see myself as a manager, or when I decide the time's right to kind of slow down in sales, a manager like somewhere in Florida or somewhere where it's a little warmer, kind of like a retirement job.
Yeah. What do you think that you need to add to your business in order to help you hit your 5-year goal?
Probably just quality, surrounding myself with quality people, and I've been fortunate with that, whether it's clients or other agents, managers throughout my career. So just if I were to bring people on my team, quality individuals that are willing to work hard, that are going to listen, learn from their mistakes, not dwell on them, and just move forward. And I think to have a few of those around me, whether they're, I don't know, I don't want to say buyer's agents or listing agents, whatever, it would be whoever they want to do it. But having those members on my team, I think would help me reach my 5-year goal and help them build their own goals.
Yeah, no, I always tell people we can't do it all. I know some of us, one of the hardest things for a lot of us to do is give up some of that delegation. We think that we need to manage it all. We think we need to touch it all. And if we're not doing it, then our client's not going to get that experience. And, I just found over the years, it's one of the hardest things for people to let go of. But in order for you to get to where you want to get to, you got to kind of create some of that leverage and delegate some of those things.
Absolutely. And, I'm learning that right now too. Like I try to do everything myself. Luckily technology makes it a little easier.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot of times where I'm like, hey, yeah, it's time to have somebody help you do these things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting to the point now where it's like, I was listening to a podcast about a month ago, and there's the owner of Sphere Rocket, who we get our virtual assistants through. His name's Justin Nelson. He's all about creating leverage, not just within your business, but within your life. But, this podcast I was listening to was talking about ROTI, return on your time invested, and how can you do something, today that will allow you to multiply your time tomorrow, right? What are some of those tasks that are eating up a lot of your time that maybe we can put a system in place that will speed that up? Or to Justin, can we get virtual assistants to either come into our business or into our life to take some of these tasks off of our plate? And like for me, I'm thinking about having my executive assistant get in and start monitoring all of my emails. Like I don't want to click delete all, these 100, like that 5 seconds, and everyone will be like, well, that's only like 5 seconds, right? But how many seconds over the course of the year is that eating up of my time?
We just had go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just thinking different, like bigger, differently, right? And this is like what mentors bring to you, right? Or other people that are doing business at a higher level than what you're currently at is picking up on some of those things. Like, for me, one of the things I told myself this year that I wasn't going to do, but I'm definitely not doing it next year, is mowing my yard, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you had an hour back to either spend more time with your family or to go out and generate another deal, per month or whatever the case be, per week. That one more hour of prospecting may bring you in another $12,000 to $15,000 check. If you were mowing the grass, you lost that opportunity, right? So, yeah, it's just delegation. How can I take some of those small things off of my plate and some of the big things off of my plate?
We had this sales award thing for people of Coldwell Banker that reached a certain level. Club, up in Newport, which is an awesome place. But one of our speakers was the number one agent in Illinois, and she came in there and talked to us. And she has her assistant with her like all the time. Her assistant picks her up at 9 a.m. every morning and brings her home at 6 p.m. So that time in the car, she's working while her assistant's driving her into the city. And then her assistant's phone is synced with her phone. So she filters out like any text message that she doesn't need to respond to, like if it's an inspector, an appraiser, or like something that her assistant can handle, like she takes care of it. If it's something that the agent needs to handle, she has her handle it. So all the mindless emails and texts that, not mindless, but stuff that she doesn't need to go through. Like she's focusing on her time on selling and her clients instead of other things. Exactly. So when I heard how they had their phone synced, I was like, that's very interesting. It's just like,
but again, it's thinking differently, right? Now you can provide either that next level service to the client, you can spend that time, prospecting for new clients, whatever the case may be. And that's the idea, right? Or like I said, I mean, if you want a certain lifestyle and you want more time with your kids, family, whatever, friends, it's worth it. It's worth it if you actually look at it and just thinking about things a little bit differently. I've been asking this question a lot lately, and I got this question from a good friend of mine, Mike Doyle, who's also a real estate agent. He was reading a book, and the question is, what's the 100-year goal? And he sent me a message about that, and he's like, a lot of times we talk about 5-year goals, 1-year goals, 25-year goals, whatever, but when was the last time someone asked you what's your 100-year goal? And I like to just rephrase it, what's the legacy goal, right? What's that legacy that you want to leave behind, after you're gone?
I've never thought about that. I don't know.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is. I don't think 100 years from now, people are going to be like, hey, that one guy, Zack Tominack, that sold grandma and grandpa their house. Like he was fantastic. I always kind of joke that, like, when I talk about like my dad being a football coach, people will tell stories about that man for the next 50 to 60 years. And I don't know if I'll leave that kind of legacy. I would like to think that there's going to be some people I touch or some qualities that maybe the qualities that my wife and I teach our kids about how to live their life and be a good person, that they're going to pass down to their kids and that they'll pass down to their kids. So I think if you lay that foundation, that's the only thing I could think of, is that what you teach others, how you treat others, and that affects how they do the same, and they pass that on. I mean, I guess that would be the one legacy that I would want to leave behind.
No, that's awesome. Like I said, it's a question that most people don't get asked, and we don't really talk about, right? And when Mike sent it to me, I was like, I got to think on that one, right? I put you on the spot, but
what's yours? What's your 100-year legacy?
For me, my mission is to change. I think our industry is broken in the sense of how we bring in newly licensed people. I think there's a better way to do it across all brokerages. I don't think it's just one brokerage. I think it's all. I think it's just an industry. And my mission is to change the failure rate. I don't feel like it should be 87% failure rate by the end of year 2.
Yeah.
Or whatever the stat is, right? Like, I want to change the some of that mindset around of mentorship and community over competition. No matter what brokerage you're at, or whether you're on a team, not on a team, whatever the case may be, because I don't know. I don't know if brokerages do a good enough job. I think they all have great training. I don't know if they do a good enough job, but at the same time, also understanding how can we actually set people up for success when they get into the business. I didn't know anything about real estate or sales when I got into the business. Mm-hmm. Can we change the way, we get our license and add in different classes and not just be, 3 weeks, 120 hours and okay, here you go. Right. Like, how do you actually attract people? How do you set up a P&L? How do you go out and get systems, or what systems do you need? Just things like that. And I think brokerages do a good job at it. I think we always can have room for improvement. So for me, I tell people all the time, if I didn't have my mentor from day one, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in real estate. I just wouldn't. It's not my personality to figure it out. And I'm not a salesperson. so, like, I didn't have that natural ability. And So yeah, that's mine. Just changing that failure rate. I don't feel like it needs to be 87%. Now,
I like what you said. I mean, it all makes sense. I was this close to being in that 87%.
yeah, I mean, I kid you not, like if it wasn't for Ryan, I would not be here. I just wanted to figure it out, and I didn't have the money. I was a broke college kid. Like no money to do it, and I didn't have anything. I had no clue about real estate.
Yeah. And, you talked about the community of like different agents and how they work together. It doesn't always, sometimes it seems competitive. And not everyone's as friendly or opening as they should be. And like, I think one thing I learned throughout the years is a lot of times the better the agent, the more quality that communication is. And they realize that we're all in here for the same goal and that we're working together. You're working for your clients, but in your clients, you start off this mission with a reason. They either want to sell their house or they want to buy a house, and you're all working together. And when you have a good agent across from you, like you and I did a deal together. I don't know if you remember, it was on Groveport years ago.
Yep.
Like, everything from the beginning, like we knew what we were doing. We were working for our clients, and we did a good job communicating. And just like when you have those transactions with good agents, and that community is there, and realize that you're working together, and it's a job, and we all have the same goal, like, it has a good feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And I wasn't always, this wasn't my mindset, in the beginning of my career. I was very John focused. I was very team focused. But over the years, what I've learned was, if you can actually build quality relationships with other agents, they actually will help your business, because it makes your life a little bit easier when you submit that offer over, or you submit that request to remedy, or you need to do an extension or whatever the case. So building the relationships with other agents is just as important as building relationships with your clients, in my opinion.
I had an agent last week. She was probably having a rough day outside of the phone conversation, but she called me and we were talking, and she just started yelling. She was real mad about an inspection not being scheduled, and it just didn't work for my clients on one of my listings. And I was just real calm, and I just asked her. I said, "Hey," I was like, "Is everything okay?" I said, "What are you so upset about?" I said, "Why are you so angry?" And she just kind of sat there for a second, and she's like, I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff going on. And she just kind of calmed down. I was like, look, we're on the same page. I was like, I want to sell the house. My sellers want to sell the house. Your buyers want to buy it. You want them to buy it. I said, we're all working together. We got the same goal. And she sent me a text later on after that. And she's like, thank you so much. She's like, I needed to hear that. She's like, I needed to be brought down. She's like, I've had a really bad day. And she's like, thanks for just staying calm and talking to me. She's like, I really appreciate it. And that's, that made me feel good. It's like, I like working with other agents like that. And, we all have different personalities, but when you can bring us together, and it makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's all about right there. Getting to the finish line. Zack, I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you so much for coming on. One last question for you. If you could give one piece of advice that either you wish you had, or that you want other agents to know, about real estate and this career, what would that be?
Two things that stand out. I'll be quick on both of them. One, my dad told me when I started this business, he said, don't be a salesman. He's like, if you're a salesman, he's like, you might get that transaction, but you're not going to get another one. He said, be honest, be open. He's like, just be who you are and you'll be fine. So, just as long as you can keep that in mind when you're working with people, with other agents, clients, like it really goes a long ways. And the other thing is be confident. When I was starting off, I didn't have that confidence. And whether I was talking to a prospective client or talking to an agent, working an open house, if you don't have that confidence, you're not, you don't believe what you're saying. And like, it's really easy for others to pick up on it. And sometimes everyone tries to steer the situation their way. You just got to be confident with who you are, what you're doing, and stand by yourself. And that's, those are things where I took my dad's advice to heart when I started, and I wish I would have had the confidence to start, but it's important.
That's awesome. Zack, thanks so much for coming on and taking, an hour out of your day to talk with us and just share your journey. Those that are watching, If you're a real estate agent, you're in the Columbus area, maybe looking to join a team, make sure you hit up Zack. He's maybe looking to hire someone. His phone number is down below. If you guys are looking to buy or sell here in Central Ohio, Zack's website is below. But Zack, for those that are listening, and what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Either shoot me a text, or with all these crazy phone calls that we all get now. So if you shoot me a text at 614-562-0030, or just go on my website and contact me. I'd love to hear from anybody, any feedback on this. If you want to make fun of me, that's fine. I enjoy that too.
No one's making fun of you.
I meant for like my friends that would watch this, if they want to teach me a little bit, that's fine. I like that. John, and I appreciate you. I like the things that you're doing. I like I told you before we started, I like admiring you from afar and how you've progressed. I look at you and I, like, we've kind of grown in this business together, and there's a lot of others that are in our boat together. So it's nice to see other people do what we're doing, be successful, and like how you give back is something I really appreciate.
It's one of those things. I think you'll say this too, and I think a lot of agents that do this business and do it well will tell anyone. For me, I've been blessed by this business and what it's provided me, the lifestyle that it was able to provide me. Even and it's not always about making more money, right? It's just at 22 years old, I didn't have to clock in and clock out. I got to do pretty much what I wanted and when I wanted, and I want others to be able to have that, right? And I think those of us that are performing at a higher level, I think we all would say that this industry has been blessed. We've been blessed by this business.
Yeah, we're lucky to be here.
Yeah. So Zack, thanks so much. I appreciate you. If I can do anything for you, and with your business or anything, helping you grow the team, whatever the case may be, I'm here to help any way I can.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks, John.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.